I'm honored to be here with Police Chief Braden, with Sheriff Wright, Chief Dollinger, is it Dollinger or Dollinger?
Dollinger.
Excuse me, Dollinger, and Senator Applewhite. We're here today because keeping people safe is job one for all of us. Public-spirited law enforcement officers play a huge role in protecting the people of North Carolina. Yet too many of our cities, towns, and counties are facing a real shortage of law enforcement officers. My colleagues in uniform up here will shed more light on how this issue is playing out here in Cumberland County, but I don't meet with a chief or a sheriff anywhere in this state without hearing about the struggles they're facing about hiring and keeping good officers. In North Carolina, between 2022 and 2023, so essentially last year, there were 428 more law enforcement separations than there were new appointments. That's for the whole state. So it just means that the pool of law enforcement officers shrunk by over 400. This is an untenable situation and it diminishes public safety. That's why my office has been working along with the Chiefs of Police Association, the Sheriff's Association, and others to develop a series of proposals to enhance recruitment and retention of local law enforcement. Some of the ideas that we are championing together include offering law enforcement hiring bonuses to new officers, to officers coming from other states, officers coming out of the military, but not to what we call transplant officers. It's not so that Hope Mills can take somebody from Fayetteville and give that person a hiring bonus. It has to be somebody who would be new to the pool here in North Carolina. A proposal to allow retired officers to come back to work without impacting their retirement, without suffering a pension penalty. I urge the Senate and the General Assembly to follow the House in passing HB 768, which would do just that. Running a public service awareness campaign nationally to highlight all that is great about this state. North Carolina is a wonderful state for folks to come to and live and then ultimately retire. And we want those officers to come to North Carolina. Offering bonuses for additional education and training to existing officers so we can continue to ensure that they develop the skills they need to develop a career pathway in law enforcement. One of the challenges we're seeing is what's called the missing middle. We have new officers, we have very senior officers, and a lot of those middle officers, 5 to 15 or 20 years of experience, are leaving the profession. We need to provide more mental health services, resources for our officers. The job of law enforcement is unbelievably stressful. Every day they have to run towards danger when the rest of us seek shelter. They're the ones who have to respond at a car accident and deal with the consequences. And it's hard. When you deal with these kinds of stressful calls on a daily basis, it can really impact their mental health. It's incumbent upon all of us to make sure that they have the tools to manage their health and well-being as they do this incredibly challenging and important work. And the last strategy is the Criminal Justice Fellows Program, a program that my office created and is run out of the Department of Justice. As a CJ Fellow, Criminal Justice Fellow, a young person can go get a 2-year community college certificate, and then if they work in law enforcement for up to 4 years here in North Carolina, that loan will be completely forgiven. It's incentivizing folks to come in as sworn officers, telecommunicators, correctional officers, among other permissible jobs. We need young people who care about others, who are driven to serve the communities they grew up in. And if you know someone who fits the bill, a high school senior or a recent graduate, who you think, you know what, they would be the kind of person who cares about others, please encourage them to learn more about the CJ Fellows Program. Applications are open for 2 more months until April 30th of this year. And to learn more, just go to ncdoj.gov/CJ fellows. North Carolina needs trustworthy, public-spirited officers serving our communities. And I'm going to do everything in my power as Attorney General to make sure that our law enforcement agencies and sheriff's offices are well-staffed and well-supported. I'm now going to ask Chief Braden to come forward to talk about some of the work they're doing here in Fayetteville to address this challenge.
Good afternoon. First, I'd like to say that I was very pleased when I heard that Attorney General Stein was coming to Fayetteville to have this conversation. It gave me hope that this is a greater conversation statewide than just a concern that I have here at the Fayetteville Police Department. As we look to recruit in 2024, and retain the officers that we have, it's a very daunting thought and task as to what needs to happen this year. As we look, our current vacancies, we've had to realign some of the ways that we do business on a day-to-day basis, while still maintaining our basic services of 911 response and investigating crimes that occur within our city. I think it's key and it's reassuring to know that I'm not the only department that is having these concerns. It's not just the state of North Carolina, as I listened earlier this week, to the things that were going on in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, some of the realignments and restructuring they did there. So I realize this isn't a local problem, but a problem that we have to come up collectively with ideas on how to actually alleviate the problem for the lack of police officers in the state of North Carolina. We continue to run our academies. We continue to recruit on a daily basis. Our recruiting staff is constantly out having to go into job fairs across the region. So again, if there's any interest in the city of Fayetteville, please feel free to reach out to our recruiters on our website. And we look forward to working with Attorney General Stein and our council on our recruiting problems.
Good afternoon, Sheriff Wright. Again, I want to thank Attorney Josh Stein for inviting us here. As the chief said before, piggyback on what he's saying, recruiting is hard for law enforcement. As I said before earlier, we had a couple of incidents that hindered law enforcement. We had the George Floyd incident that happened that started the really downfall of law enforcement. And then we turned around and we had a pandemic that hindered law enforcement because a lot of folks could work from home to do their job where law enforcement had to come in to work. So it sent to a lot of folks that, well, I can work from home and make this amount of money versus coming in to a law enforcement agency. But here in Cumberland, what we have done, have started my own academy for its BLET, Basic Law Enforcement Training. So we have this is our 4th class that's going to graduate from the sheriff's office. As Chief said now, I'm authorized as a sheriff's office, I'm authorized 755 personnel assigned to that sheriff's office. Okay, as of the day, I have 556 people in that sheriff's office. So that says a lot. Now, I authorize 339 sworn officers. Okay, I have a vacancy of 85. That's a lot of officers. See, my officers just don't work patrol, work into the courthouse. I have to have officers over in the detention center. So I have a little bit more. Now, I'm authorized to have over at the detention center, I'm authorized to have over 178 detention officers in that detention center, and on that I got a 98 vacancy. But what we're doing over there at the detention center, we're running our academy also over there too. But still, that's a 30-day course. By the time you finish that course, somebody's retired or somebody's gone home somewhere or something happened. I just give you what's going on. The other week, I promoted about 20 folks at that detention center. I'm promoting folks that only has, say, a sergeant, a year as a sergeant. I'm promoting corporals with 6 months in. These young folks are still learning the system, but that's where we're at today. Because a lot of the experienced folks are going home, taking themselves home. But I can assure that the ones that's here, that's working in the sheriff's office are motivated, they're dedicated to doing the job and taking care of the citizens here. But again, you know, you have to look around, as Chief said, in these states. There's a lot of states, a lot of small townships that's closing their law enforcement agencies because they just don't have the personnel. But we're fortunate here that myself, Chief Dollinger from Hope Mills, that we do work together to take care of these folks in Cumberland County.
Hey, just to reiterate what the Sheriff Wright and Chief Braden said, we're in the process too of considering maybe realigning some of the functions that we perform on a daily basis, because we do have to have officers to respond to 911 calls. And just like the sheriff said as well, we're experiencing the same thing. We're promoting officers that have very little experience. We have a very young department. Officers serving as an FTO that just graduated the field training program themselves to train new officers. So we're all experiencing the same thing and under the same situation, have to prioritize our the roles that we perform and the duties that we perform as well.
It's always a pleasure to welcome Attorney General Stein here to our community. I echo his sentiments, particularly how we care for our law enforcement professionals, particularly mental health issues. And that's one of the things that I've heard in the General Assembly, how we actually care for our law enforcement professionals. And as I continue to meet with our municipalities, the mayors, I'm hearing the same thing. It's not just about pay, although pay is important, but it's how we care for them and how we bring in new professionals into this line of business. So I'm super excited about the Fellows Program. That's an excellent, excellent opportunity to fill the ranks, and I'm here to support the efforts of the Attorney General and our local law enforcement. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator.
Yes, sir.
And welcome any questions at this time, and you can direct them to any of the speakers. And y'all feel free to just step forward if you're moved. Anyone have any questions?
Yeah, I got a question. Chief Braden, what's your starting salary for a elementary police officer?
So right now, 45,000 is the entry-level pay for a police officer with the city of Fayetteville.
Sheriff Wright, what's your starting salary?
Start pay is $50,750.
Ours right now is $40,915, but we're currently in a process of a pay study, and the Board of Commissioners is due to vote on March 18th to increase that number.
Thank you.
So, Attorney General Stein,
Yes, sir.
said that we need to pay these police officers more.
There's no question that law enforcement is one of the most important jobs we have and is not adequately compensated. The state is not in a position where it can pay and to assume the responsibility of meeting the salary needs of every local governmental official. But where I think the state can provide is using leverage. And that was why the recruitment and retention bonus is an idea, that if we can bring in officers from out of state and make it attractive, whether it's a $10,000 or $5,000 incentive payment, and we make it available to any law enforcement agency, whether it's county or city or town, then that's a way that the state can lift up the work these guys are doing.
Let me ask you this. I think I read a couple of weeks ago where Raleigh is making a pretty good inroads in their policing for their downtown business.
Mm-hmm.
You're probably more familiar with that than I am. That was good. I'm sure you do.
Yes.
But they seem to be doing a pretty good job.
Raleigh's been very focused on making sure that folks are safe and feel safe when they're downtown at night. It's important for local businesses to continue to thrive and grow. And we want every community in North Carolina to succeed. And if there is not a sense of safety in that community, it's very difficult for that community to grow. Because folks don't want to live where they don't feel safe. And that is something that everyone up here, whether they're a state senator or a person in officer, feels very strongly. We want to make sure that everyone is safe, and we want to create conditions for folks to succeed. Safe communities is a critical part.
Piggybacking off of that, could you speak on any challenges that you may have in officers important public issues that police officers may not be trained in, but, you know, dealing with folks who have mental health issues, business and things like that.
Anyone want to take that question about some of the challenges of when the folks are leaving for other agencies?
So, like was mentioned earlier, there's a deficit of sworn police officers in North Carolina. I've seen a lot of the officers who left the Fayetteville Police Department are becoming employed with smaller agencies throughout the region and throughout the state. As it pertains to that, a lot of these smaller agencies do have starting salaries or incentives that would allow those officers to go to those agencies and have a better salary than what they currently have in the city of Fayetteville. So I can't speak to other agencies and the other departments they have, but what we are seeing is that officers are realigning within the state because we do have the deficit of sworn police officers here. And some of the smaller agencies do have the ability to offer a higher starting salary or bring people over at a higher step plan than we currently have.
Yeah, as the chief said, the same thing. You know, you got smaller agencies that can, you know, being they have less personnel, they can offer a better, say, retirement package than versus a large agency, you know, first year insurance, you know, that we have. But as the chief said, a lot of these young folks now, I don't want to say they're not, it takes special people to do this job, okay? As I said before, everybody can't do this job. It takes special people to do it. We get applicants, just like Chief here. They probably get hundreds of applications like I do, okay? But you have to go through those applicants and ensure that you're picking the right ones for this job. Because, you know, just as you said, mental health, our folks are CIT trained, that's constantly, you know, to deal with these folks out here. But at the same time, we have to look at the mental health of officers that's working out here. It's a different environment for these young folks now, working here. So, you know, as I go back to the detention center, you know, detention center, there's 668 people over there today in that detention center. That's a lot of people over there. A lot of those folks are over there with mental health issues over there. So my officers have to be trained along with, you know, to deal with those folks over there. So, but again, as the chief said, a lot of the time a smaller agency can offer a better package than a large agency.
I will talk about this co-responder model. It was actually a story in the paper today about Raleigh is gonna consider moving in this direction. Durham has already done this. Greensboro has already done this. The whole model is that a lot of the 911 calls that these deputies and police officers respond to have nothing to do with a crime. It has to do with somebody with a mental health crisis. And often, even when we have critical incident training, CIT, for officers, that is not as much training as a social worker has in order to become a licensed social worker. And if we can combine a social worker and a law enforcement responding to a mental health crisis, it actually is good for the officer. Once the officer is established that it's a safe environment and the social worker can come in and do their thing, then sometimes the officer can get back out on the road and in the community and addressing criminal matters. And in any event, the social worker can respond to that issue, hopefully in a better way, and reduce the number of people that end up in the jail, honestly.
So, that says to me that you support the Office of Community Safety Programs, and Councilman Benavente, sitting out there before you, with his hair in that bun, he's a big proponent of that here in this community. So you're in support of that.
Well, I assume that I would. I don't know the precise contours of what is being considered here in Fayetteville, but I can tell you that this co-responder model is something that is spreading across communities, not only in North Carolina, but across the country, because of the recognition of the great needs for mental health care all across this country.
And that's precisely why Councilman Benavente has one of his, linchpins in that.
Great.
About the mental health.
That's wonderful. Anything else? Yes.
Question for Chief Braden.
Yes. Chief.
You talked
operates, maybe some of the vacancies. Could you share a little bit more about what that looks like, kind of what priorities would be shifted around, stuff like that?
Attached to our patrol district, we have what we call our community engagement response teams. Based on the staffing issues, we had to assign those units back to a patrol unit so that we could maintain our minimum staffing requirements. For us, every shift that works, and we have there are 3 squads on at any given time that ensures that we have 24 officers out patrolling the city of Fayetteville any time of day, day of week. Holidays, that we have a minimum staffing of 24 officers to answer and respond to 911 calls. So the only realignment we've done so far is putting those community engagement response team officers back to a patrol response within those districts.
Yes, please.
I looked at Councilmember Benevente's face when you mentioned the OCS. So, that's something that the city of Fayetteville has been discussing for quite some time. And I think every member of the city council at one time or another has engaged me with the hopes of getting funding as well. So that's something that we certainly, the delegation, not just myself, but the delegation has our eye on to see whatever we can do to assist in that effort. But I wanted to, although Mario has been the linchpin on that, but every member of the city council has at least expressed interest to me about that effort, and I certainly am supportive of it.
Can you get them funding?
Well, we're in a short session now, so we'll see the next long session. Each of the municipalities give us their priorities, and we certainly will make every effort to do that. Yes, ma'am.
So, as you say that, and thank you for bringing that up, that all 10 of us
Yes, ma'am.
are in favor of it, just trying to figure out the best thing. But as we have Mr. Stein here, just to let you know, as we're talking about that we do need, help with funding, we always need help with funding, especially for our public safety. But what everybody has to realize about Fayetteville, and I'm going to say it, and everybody can know I'm going to say it, we're the largest neighbor to the largest military installation in the world. When we talk about mental health, we talk about it on steroids here in Fayetteville.
Yes, we do.
And it is, to compare us to other cities, it's just not, it's apples and oranges. So I'm trying to go in the fight with Senator Applewhite to say, we aren't the other cities where everybody else has the mental health. We have a whole nother component to it.
And that's a great point that you bring up, and it stresses the importance of more collaboration with Fort Liberty, right, with the leadership of
Which
Fort
we
Liberty, and continuing to do that, because I agree that, Fort Liberty brings some amazing things to our community, but then there are also some challenges. I can say that. I'm a retired military, so that is something that I've also had conversations with the leadership of Fort Liberty.
And I think we all should get kudos because we have been collaborating for this. Everybody up here, we've been collaborating. So we just want to make sure that Mr. Stein.
Yes, ma'am.
Kudos deserved and heard.
Thank you.
Thank you all for being here. Appreciate it very much.
Would y'all mind stepping in front of the podium and we can take a group picture?
Yes.
You're not done. Couple more, one more.
Thank you, guys.
Appreciate it.
You been all right?
How you been doing?
I need to ask, Attorney General Stein.
Oh, yeah, I know.
It's good to see you, sir. You too.
Actually, you can come over to the camera over here. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so Chief Braden, so again, we've been reporting with the numbers that you shared on Monday evening, but you're saying there's actually been a change there. Do you
So,
want to talk about that?
so remember the numbers I reported on Monday evening were for the entire year of 2023. We're already starting March of 2024. My current vacancy rate for sworn is 69 positions. My current vacancy rate for non-sworn is 19 positions across the department. So, as we talked today, and we